1981. A child is born in Switzerland. His name is Fabian Cancellara. Nobody knows it yet, but he will become one of the most dominant forces professional cycling has ever witnessed. This is the story of a man who conquered time, a rider who made the impossible look routine, who turned cobblestones into his personal canvas and wrote his name in cycling history. We're going to examine the career of Fabian Cancellara, his triumphs, his setbacks, the greatest rivalry in cobbled classics history, the controversy, and the legacy he left behind. Fabian Cancellara was born to ride. At age 19 in 2001, he turned professional and signed with the legendary Mapei Quick-Step team, where he rode as a stagiaire. The Mapei squad was a powerhouse, the team that dominated the late 90s. For a young Swiss rider, this was the deep end of the pool. Sink or swim. Cancellara didn't sink. In his first professional season, he won 11 races. His early years were spent learning the craft, understanding the tactical nuances that separate good riders from great ones. Following the folding of Mapei at the end of the 2002 season, Cancellara joined Bortolo. His monument debut came on April 6, 2003, the Tour of Flanders, the race that one day would become his hunting grounds. But this first attempt, he finished in 73rd place, over 10 minutes behind the winner. Humbling, crushing even. A pattern was emerging throughout 2003 and 2004. Prologues, time trials, short efforts where raw power mattered became Cancellara's bread and butter. He won the brief 3.4 kilometer prologue at the Tour de Romandie and went on to win the points classification. Then came victories in time trial stages at the Tour of Belgium and Tour de Suisse. Bortolo's team management was impressed. They selected him for the 2004 Tour de France, the biggest race in the world. And Cancellara was ready to announce himself. 2004, the Tour de France. July 3rd, Liège, Belgium. A 6.1 kilometer time trial through the streets. And in 6 minutes and 50 seconds, Cancellara crushed the prologue, beating out established specialists. The young Swiss rider, just 23 years old, pulled on the yellow jersey for the first time in his career. He wore it for one day, before losing it to Tor Hushovd on stage 1. But that one day was a declaration. Cancellara had arrived on the biggest stage in cycling. He would wear that yellow jersey 29 times across his career. 29 days leading the greatest race on earth. He is the cyclist with the most career yellow jerseys who has not been a Tour winner. Think about the weight of that statistic. His career total is higher than legendary riders like Lamont, Ulrich, Pantani, Wiggins, Nibali, and Evans. After a quieter 2005 and 2006 at the Tour, Cancellara came into 2007 with something to prove. He won the opening 7.9 kilometer prologue in London, pulling on yellow once again. He held it through stage 2, showing his growing maturity and tactical awareness. Then came stage 3. This wasn't a time trial. This was a 236 kilometer road stage that everyone expected to end in a bunch sprint. And then Cancellara saw his moment. The sprinters and their teams were marking each other. Nobody was watching him. So he attacked. He powered to the line, outriding the main sprinters who belatedly tried to chase. It took audacity, a calculated risk, and sheer power. In 2010, it seemed like Cancellara could do no wrong. He just won the Tour of Flanders and Paris-Roubaix double, which we'll talk about later. He'd won the prologue at the Tour de Suisse. He was in the form of his life. The Tour de France started in Rotterdam with an 8.9 kilometer prologue. Cancellara beat Tony Martin by 10 seconds. Yellow was his again. There was just one blip. On stage 2, Sylvain Chavanel soloed to his stage win by almost 4 minutes. An incredible ride. Chavanel took yellow briefly, but Cancellara wasn't worried. He knew stage 3 was coming. The cobblestones. Cancellara's playground. Tor Hushovd won the stage in a thriller, but Cancellara made the front group. He was back in yellow where he belonged. He finally let go of the race lead on the first mountain stage as expected. In 2012, Cancellara won the opening stage once more, his 5th opening stage win at the Tour. He wore yellow again, but this time only for one stage. In 2015, Cancellara reached that 29 time mark in the yellow jersey. Cancellara would never win the Tour de France, obviously, but in many ways, he always owned the opening act. If there's one discipline that defines Cancellara above all else, One element that separated him from every other rider of his generation, it was the time trial. This is where the Swiss clock ticked with perfect, ruthless precision. Cancellara won the time trial at the World Championships on 4 occasions. 4 rainbow jerseys in the discipline. 4 times standing atop the world, wearing those beautiful stripes that say, "I am the fastest man on earth." The 2006 World Championships took place with events held in both Switzerland and Austria. Cancellara stated publicly that he wished to win both the time trial and the road race. The pressure was on. September 21st, 2006. The men's elite time trial. 46.6 kilometers of Austrian roads. Cancellara didn't just win, he dominated the time trial event and won by a margin of close to a minute and a half over second place. That was Cancellara's first elite world championship in the discipline. The rainbow jersey was his. The world knew a new champion had risen. Could he repeat? Could he defend the rainbow jersey? The pressure to back up a world title is enormous. Everyone wants to knock down the champion. Everyone has studied his style, his pacing, his power profile. September 26th, 2007. Stuttgart, Germany. 45.5 kilometers. Cancellara retained his world time trial crown. Back-to-back world championships. This wasn't a fluke, this wasn't just good form, this is sustained excellence. Now the world championships truly came home. Mendrisio, Switzerland. September 24th, 2009. The time trial world championship on Swiss soil. Can you imagine the pressure? It's your home country, your people. Every Swiss cycling fan watching, expecting, demanding, hoping. The course was 49.8 kilometers. On roads Cancellara had trained on. Roads he knew in his sleep. And Cancellara delivered. He won his 3rd championship. With pressure that would crush many a rider, Cancellara rose to the occasion. The rainbow jersey would once again be his. Worlds took place in Melbourne in 2010, and Cancellara returned to defend his title. He was going for 4. Nobody had ever won 4 elite men's world time trial championships. He was tied at 3. This could be history in the making. September 30th, 2010. 46.2 kilometers. The course is technical, demanding, with rolling terrain that would test every aspect of a rider's ability. Cancellara won the race by over a minute. He became the first 4-time men's world champion of the time trial. The record was his. There was a period from around 2006 to 2011 where Cancellara was almost unbeatable in the time trial. 5 years where if you saw Cancellara's name against yours on a start list, you already knew who would win. The only question was, by how much? How do you race against someone who seems superhuman? How do you motivate yourself if second place is the best you can hope for? Only the rise of Tony Martin in the later years of Cancellara's career provided real competition in the time trial. But for years before Martin emerged, Cancellara was alone at the top. But Cancellara wasn't content with just world championships. He wanted gold. The Olympics represented something different. It only happens every 4 years. Limited chances, maximum pressure. And Cancellara wanted that gold medal around his neck. Wanted to hear the Swiss national anthem on the highest stage in all of sport. Beijing, 2008. The Summer Olympics come to China. The Bird's Nest Stadium, the Water Cube, and somewhere on the roads outside Beijing, Fabian Cancellara is trying to make Olympic history. The men's individual time trial. 47.9 kilometers outside Beijing. Hot, humid, demanding. Cancellara arrived as the world time trial champion, with the weight of Swiss expectations on his shoulders. But from the moment he left the start ramp, it was clear it wasn't going to be close. Cancellara won the gold medal, finishing over 30 seconds ahead of his closest rival. Quote, "I was the favorite, and I had prepared specially for today, so there is a lot of pressure, but I'm proud to be the winner." The gold medal was his. 4 days later, August 17th, Cancellara is in the men's road race. During the final lap of the race, Cancellara crossed the gap to the race's leading group that had just formed. Due to doping positives, Cancellara was subsequently promoted to second place, Olympic silver. He didn't initially receive a new medal for his new placing, but on December 18th, 2010, Cancellara finally received the medal in a ceremony held in his hometown. 4 years passed since Beijing. London 2012 approached. Cancellara was still a favorite, still one of the world's best. But fate had other plans. His preparations for London were hampered by a broken collarbone sustained when he fell in the Tour of Flanders that April, the injury that haunts every cyclist. The collarbone break that derails seasons. Cancellara tried to recover in time, but the Olympics came too quickly. July 28th, 2012, the road race. 250 kilometers through London and Surrey. Cancellara fought, but he couldn't match his Beijing form. He finished in a lowly 106th place. Disappointing, frustrating, not the performance he wanted. August 1st, 2012, the time trial. Surely here, in his specialty, Cancellara could redeem himself, but 7th place was all he could manage. For a rider who dominated time trials for years, 7th place must have felt like failure. 4 more years. 4 years of wondering if he'd get one more chance at Olympic redemption. 4 years of knowing that Rio 2016 would be his final opportunity. 4 years of aging, of younger riders emerging, of Father Time catching up. Before the Olympics, Cancellara made an announcement. He would retire at the end of the season. Rio would be his final major race. The pressure was unimaginable. Your last ever race. Your last chance at redemption. Your final opportunity to go out on top. The world watching. History waiting. August 10th, 2016. The men's time trial. 54.5 kilometers on a demanding circuit. Rolling terrain, technical sections, dangerous descents, and brutal competition. Rohan Dennis, Tom Dumoulin, Chris Froome. Cancellara was the fastest man in the field at the first split after 10 kilometers. At the second split, disaster. He found himself more than 24 seconds adrift of Rohan Dennis. The perfect ending crumbling. Digging deep, calling upon every reserve of strength, every bill of mental toughness built over the 16 professional years, Cancellara pushed again on the second lap. The Swiss rider completed the 54.5 kilometer course. The time flashed across the screen. Cancellara had won by 47 seconds over Dumoulin. It was a Hollywood ending. A fairy tale finish. The old champion summoning one final burst of greatness to go out on top. But there is even more to Cancellara's career. To understand Cancellara's monument and classics victories, we need to understand the context. Because his greatest victories didn't happen in a vacuum. They happened in direct combat with one of the greatest classics riders who ever lived. They happened in a rivalry that defined a generation. Tom Boonen versus Fabian Cancellara. This was once in a generation stuff. Two titans emerging at the same time, both at the peak of their powers, battling for supremacy on the cobbles of Northern Europe. Their heated rivalry has been called the greatest in the history of the cobble classics, and for good reason. Tom Boonen and Fabian Cancellara were born just 5 months apart. Boonen entered the professional peloton as Johan Museeuw, the Lion of Flanders, was preparing to leave it. Belgium needed a new classics hero. Boonen seemed destined for that role from the beginning. By the time Cancellara won his first monument, Paris-Roubaix in 2006, Boonen had already won even more races. Gent-Wevelgem, Paris-Roubaix, Tour of Flanders twice, E3 Haarlembeke twice, and Childepree. Boonen was better sooner. He dominated the early to mid-2000s. In 2005, he won both the Tour of Flanders and Paris-Roubaix, then capped it off with a World Championship in Madrid. In 2006, he won Flanders wearing the rainbow jersey. A Belgian champion winning in the rainbow bands. It was Belgian cycling heaven. But then something shifted. Boonen faced personal struggles. His career hit a midpoint crisis. And just as Boonen's star dimmed slightly, Cancellara's exploded. April 9th, 2006, Paris-Roubaix, the Hell of the North. Boonen was the defending champion and arguably at the peak of his career. Cancellara was the challenger, the emerging star looking to win his first monument. He won his first monument victory. Boonen finished back in the group. 2 years later, they met again on the cobbles of Roubaix, this time with Alessandro Ballan in tow, making it a three-man race for glory. During the race, Boonen and Cancellara matched each other's surges across 20 kilometers of cobblestones. Surge, counter-surge, attack, response, they were destroying each other, and Ballan was just trying to hang on. Once at the velodrome, Boonen proved he was the superior sprinter. He burst past Cancellara in the final 500 meters to win his second Roubaix. The rivalry intensified. Then came 2010, the year Fabian Cancellara reached his absolute peak, the year that defined the rivalry and tilted it permanently in Cancellara's favor. This spring started with E3 Harlebecke. March 27th, 2010. Cancellara attacked and won, finishing ahead of Bonin and Juan Antonio Flecha. Message sent. Spartacus was in form. 1 week later, the Tour of Flanders. On the last lap, Cancellara and Bonin broke away together with 44 kilometers still to race. Both men were wearing their national champions' jerseys. Cancellara in the bright red and white cross of Switzerland, Bonin in the black, yellow, red of Belgium. The image was iconic. Two titans, alone, battling for supremacy. They led the way onto the Kapelmuur, the steepest, most brutal climb of the course. And then it happened. Cancellara attacked while still seated. He rounded a corner on the cobbled part of the climb and simply motored away. Bonin had no answer. The Belgian thrashed on his pedals, out of the saddle, giving everything. Cancellara stayed seated, the power flowing through his legs like electricity through a cable, and just rode away. Cancellara won by 1 minute and 14 seconds over Bonin, his first Tour of Flanders victory. Bonin was left stunned, defeated, questioning how it was even possible. 1 week later, April 11th, 2010, Paris-Roubaix. Cancellara won again by more than 2 minutes. A Flanders-Roubaix double. Only the 10th rider in history to achieve it. But Bonin wasn't done. In 2012, the Belgian had his revenge season. He won 4 major cobbled classics that year: Omloop, E3, Flanders, and Paris-Roubaix. Whereas Cancellara, plagued by injuries and bad luck. He crashed at E3, suffered a mechanical at Gent-Wevelgem, then had a serious crash at Flanders caused by a water bottle in the feed zone. It was a 4-part fracture of the right collarbone. His spring campaign was over. Bonin rode through the wreckage of Cancellara's season and claimed back his throne. The rivalry swung back and forth like a pendulum. In 2013, Cancellara returned from his injuries and did the unthinkable. He completed another Tour of Flanders and Paris-Roubaix double. Only Bonin had also achieved this twice. They were equals in that regard, gladiators trading blows across years. The 100th edition of the Tour of Flanders in 2016 was billed as our final confrontation. Cancellara was in his final season. Bonin would retire the following year. One last dance. Peter Sagan would win that race, dropping Cancellara on the Paterberg and soloing to victory. It was the official passing of the torch to the next generation. Cancellara in his final Flanders finished second. Not the fairy tale ending he wanted, but still a podium. Bonin finished further back. The new generation was taking over. But no rivalry has since matched what Bonin and Cancellara gave us. In his career in total, Cancellara won Paris-Roubaix 3 times, the Tour of Flanders 3 times, and Milan-San Remo once. 7 monument victories. 7 days where he proved that power alone can conquer everyone else. The spring of 2008 was special for Cancellara. At Milan-San Remo, he broke away from the leading group in the final kilometers to win. A race that typically ends in a sprint, but Cancellara rewrote the script. He attacked alone, and he made it stick. Fabian Cancellara finished his professional career with 88 victories. Let's break down what that really means. Stay with me here. 2 Olympic gold medals, 1 Olympic silver medal, 4 World Time Trial Championships, 3 Paris-Roubaix victories, 3 Tour of Flanders victories, 1 Milan-San Remo, 3 E3 Harlebecke victories, 3 Strade Bianche victories, 1 Tirreno Adriatico GC win, 1 Tour de Suisse overall GC win, 10 Swiss National Time Trial Championships, 2 Swiss National Road Race Championships, 8 Tour de France stage wins, 3 Volta a España wins, 29 days in the yellow jersey at the Tour. In 50 years, when someone else is hosting this channel, talking about the greatest classics riders who ever lived, Fabian Cancellara's name will be in that conversation. When they talk about the greatest time trialist, and they discuss the most complete riders, his name will also be in that conversation. That's a legacy. That's what he built. That's what will last. Thank you for watching this dive into one of cycling's greatest champions. If you enjoyed this exploration of Fabian Cancellara's incredible career, make sure to subscribe to 124 Cycling. We bring you the stories and the passion behind professional cycling's greatest moments and legends. Hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications, and join us as we continue exploring the sport we love. There's more legends, more races, and more stories that need to be told.